Welcome to the Silverbridge CPA's Summer Speaker Series. We hope you enjoy this message. Our Summer Speaker Series. My name is Brittany Williams, and I'm Silverbridge CPA's firm administrator. We are very fortunate to have Stephen Schultz, Certified Financial Planner, who also holds the following certifications: BFA, CPFA, NQPC, and CEPA. Hopefully, Stephen, you might explain what all of those are. Of Family Tree Financial presenting today. He will discuss the value a certified financial planner brings to help you establish financial goals and how they work with your CPA to deliver a roadmap for achievement. We'll review some key differences of financial professional titles, what distinguish them from one another, and review who should work with one. I'll introduce him shortly, but just a few items to go over first. If you haven't already, please be sure to mute yourself. You can do so in the top right corner by hitting the little microphone icon. This presentation is being recorded, so if you don't want to have your face shown in it, please turn the camera off now, which you can also do in the upper right corner. And then you are welcome to type your questions as you have them into the chat feature. And at the end of the presentation, we'll go through those questions. And if there's time, you can always unmute yourself and ask at that point as well. With that said, I will introduce our speaker. Stephen was inspired to help others with their financial goals from an early age. He saw how hard his parents worked to provide for their 7 children, 6 of them boys, yet struggled to find financial peace. He took that desire to help families to his studies at The Ohio State University, where he earned a degree in human ecology with a specialization in family financial planning and behavioral science. Stephen has been in the financial services industry for over 15 years, 10 of them as a financial wholesaler in Southern California, consulting hundreds of financial advisors about retirement challenges and solutions. In 2016, wanting to have a direct impact on individual families' financial success, Stephen transitioned to a financial advisor himself. He started his practice serving teachers, to whom he has a special place in his heart, coming from a family of teachers. He continues to have a passion for serving those that serve others. In 2018, he moved with his family to Idaho to start his own holistic financial services practice. Stephen helps their clients preserve and grow what is important to them while educating clients on how to create their own financial roadmaps. In their free time, Stephen, his wife, and 5 kids enjoy hiking, kayaking, camping, and everything outdoors that Idaho has to offer. Stephen loves every sport known to man, cooking, but not cleaning, and finding the next adventure. Family time is their favorite time, and teaching is at the heart of everything they do. All right, Stephen, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's presentation. Brittany, thank you for that kind introduction. Probably need to update some of those figures, obviously, but I wanted to at least let us know what today's presentation is. You did a great job there. I think ultimately kind of how the structure of today's presentation is going to go is we're going to define the differences between these 2 titles. There is a lot of people get to use the term financial advisor. Some people use the term financial planner. We're going to understand what those differences are and actually how it's regulated. So I think it's important for us to go through some of that, how these this industry gets regulated as far as use of titles, how designations work, who are the kind of the people that are big brother in our scenarios. We're also going to review some of those specific designations like I have after my name. Ultimately, I want to provide some resources on how to vet a financial advisor if you are seeking one out, and then provide some resources for you on how to do that and where you should go. Ultimately, I think one of the things Brittany asked me to provide was maybe we can get an overview of how financial advisors and planners charge fees, how they get paid. So we plan on doing that too. But before I jump into it, I just want to say it's been a real pleasure to be invited back. This is my 2nd time being a presenter on the summer series. Family Tree Financial, my partner Chris Eggleston and myself have known Silverbridge CPAs for quite some time. We think they're one of the good CPA firms out there, and we love to refer our clients to you guys. So thank you for having me on today. The only thing I'd say before we jump into today's presentation is I have just over 18 years of actually licensed experience inside the financial industry. I did go to the Ohio State University, and with that behavioral financial kind of background and family financial management, it was always for financial planning, kind of creating that holistic environment. My specific specialties in this area are obviously retirees and people looking for retirement advice. That's kind of a general one that almost every financial advisor or planner is going to be specialized in. I also have a fondness for obviously teachers, but also small business owners, myself being one. And I think that's where we really add some value. So before I jump into the actual presentation, I do want to just maybe introduce you to a little bit about what Family Tree Financial is and who we serve. So our website is just familytreefinancial.us. I wanted to introduce a little bit of our team here today. We just welcomed on a new financial advisor and partner in Sage Kendall. But between myself and Chris Eggleston, kind of the founding partners of Family Tree, we have Sage Kendall, who just joined our firm literally last week. So we welcome Sage. He's a great financial advisor with almost 22 years of experience in the industry himself. And then we have another financial advisor at our firm, Sarah Rodewald. We are really a small family shop. We manage about $500,000 in total assets, or I'm not sorry, not $500,000, $500 million with a B. So about $500 million in total assets as a firm. And I just wanted to give you some resources in case you were looking for a financial advisor in your life. You can kind of see what we have. When I look at my profile here, we're specifically going to be looking at me as your guide. How would I test myself if I was looking for a financial advisor, or maybe even looking for somebody to give me a second opinion? How can I vet them? And so when you look at my profile, we're going to be going over all these different letters that I have over my name and everything else that we can think of today, and hopefully quick succession. So I'm going to jump into that here shortly. I'm going to just cue back up my slides, and then we'll start our presentation. All right. So at the end of the day, the word financial advisor gets thrown around a lot. There's a lot of people that get to use that term. Financial planner is usually somebody that has a little bit more expertise of dealing with not just products, not just one stock or mutual funds, but dealing with a lot of stuff in our industry. So I think that this is going to be a great presentation. I guided this presentation on the premise that I've recently dealt with clients and some prospective clients that have struggled with really evaluating financial advisors. We're blessed at Family Tree to be a member of the Dave Ramsey organization as SmartVestor Pros. And so we have a lot of competition out there, and we are really trying to educate our clients on how to get the most out of their financial advice. So I'm looking forward to jumping right into that, and let's get started. A brief disclaimer here that I'll post for about, that's enough. But we just want you to know that we do not offer any tax or legal advice. That's for Silverbridge CPAs and your attorneys out there. What we do is have a good knowledge base that we would love to create a team atmosphere and help be a quarterback in your financial goals with your CPAs, with your attorneys, and everybody else that might touch your financial life. But let's start off here. The difference really between a financial planner and financial advisor. Oftentimes, many people use these terms obviously interchangeable, but they don't always understand the differences and what they mean. I think understanding the difference helps us choose the right professional to reach our goals. And throughout this presentation today, we're going to distinguish what each role has and does, and give you the resources and education to help you decipher this on your own. So let's start with kind of some of those key differences. We're going to start off just talking about this financial advisor. And as you can see, the financial advisor is often involved in mostly like a one-time or maybe a snapshot, something that he can give you to plug and play a current hole or a current need in your financial situation. Oftentimes that means they're really focused on that one transaction. It could be the investment that they purchased or the product, whether it's an insurance product or like an annuity or life insurance. It could be a stock mutual fund or helping you with an IRA or any of those terms. But not all financial advisors are the same. And not all financial advisors are actually required to act as fiduciaries. So sometimes they have that capacity with the product they sell you, but it's not always in the same goal of a financial planner. More often than not, a financial advisor would get a fee or a commission for the product they sell you. Sometimes that comes out of the fee that you pay the company that you place your money with, and sometimes that comes from the, out of your own assets, and sometimes that doesn't come out of your assets. And commissions and fees aren't necessarily a bad thing. Everybody knows we need to get paid for the work we do. And there's plenty of ways. So I'm going to kind of tease you a little bit with this because mostly towards the end of our conversation, I'm going to show you a couple of different resources and talk a little bit more extensively about how financial advisors and planners get paid. But when it comes to a financial planner, obviously they're looking at the whole picture. The holistic financial planning means they're looking at almost every aspect of your life. And so some of those aspects include obviously taxes, insurance, investments, and everything in an all-encompassing picture. Family Tree Financial has the goal that when we talk about your picture, we want to include anything. We like to start that conversation with what you value most. Oftentimes, most of our clients obviously value independence. They like to have financial security. They value their family. And we want to make sure that we're guiding you in a value-centric approach that's going to encompass everything that you might have inside the monetary world. That is obviously a long-term strategy versus just a snapshot or something that you need today. We want to make sure that the impact that we're making or the decisions that we have today are not just one-year terms or short-sighted purviews. They should be long-term. They should encompass your entire life. And when we meet with you as a financial planner, we are certainly acting as a fiduciary because we want to include everything that we see inside your financial picture. More often than not, when you work with a financial planner specifically to kind of create that roadmap for yourself, the fee structure could be a multitude of ways. And again, I'll tease it a little bit here, but that could be a flat fee. It could be an hourly fee. It could just be something that you have an ongoing annual fee or some type of service for whatever you're getting. But it's important to know that in order to really understand fees, your financial planner or financial advisor would want to understand how far their scope of their advice will go. Is it something that you want just for today? And you can use them kind of just as that quick plug and play, or you can really say, I want somebody to walk with me through my financial goals into retirement. All right, so let's start off with a little bit deeper dive into financial advisors. A financial advisor is a very broad term. It is not regulated. So for instance, a insurance person might, only licensed to sell you different types of insurance could put themselves as a financial advisor. The reality is that there's nobody that's out there granting that title. There's no award there. It's almost like a participation award, right? If I give you financial advice about buying term life insurance, that may constitute me acting as a financial advisor. I'm giving you some sort of financial advisor piece to that. But as you can say, it's a very, very broad term that we'll go into a little bit. Who can use that term? Well, investment managers, stockbrokers, bankers, insurance agents, financial planners like myself. I'm a financial planner and a financial advisor. They typically work inside what's called like a broker or broker-dealer relationship. In that environment, they're really regulated by the broker-dealer, the actual company that they clear through. For me, it's Osaic Wealth Incorporated. Osaic Wealth is a big independent broker-dealer out there. They typically have somewhere in maybe the neighborhood of 11 to 12,000 financial advisors that kind of are underneath that umbrella. And inside that relationship, we're all financial advisors. That means that we have to have certain licenses in order to sell you financial products, and we'll go into that specifically here in a little bit. But that broker-dealer relationship gives us that supervisory type of environment where they're helping us not only with the tools and resources that we can benefit our clients' lives, but they're also making sure they uphold the compliance side of things. And we'll go into that specifically here in a little bit more as well. When we talk about that broker-dealer relationship, they're typically trying to enforce and make sure we fulfill what's called a best interest regulation that we'll dig into here in a few minutes as well. This ensures that honestly the suitability is the focus for the broker-dealer and that broker. They want to make sure that the product that they sell you is good for you as an individual, but it must be considered not only for you as an individual, it's got to be considered as is that product itself in the best interest of your client, not just for what you need today, but the entire financial picture. If it's not good for your entire situation and looking at on a broad scope, then generally speaking, there's going to be more need for a little bit more compliance oversight from a broker dealer inside that relationship. I've already went into a little bit of, commissions and fees and how they can get paid a little bit of both, and we'll go into that in more detail. But again, we're not always fiduciaries in that regard. So I think that's a term that gets thrown around a lot in our industry. Let's take a look at how it compares to a financial planner inside this scope. A financial planner is a specialist at the end of the day. They're going to help you build a long-term roadmap for your money. Their scope is going to be limited based upon your need and what you need and what you're trying to get out of that relationship. But they typically cover a very comprehensive focus on your entire holistic picture of retirement, taxes, estate planning, insurance, and so much more. When I talk to people from a financial planner kind of hat that I wear, I go deep. I want to know a lot about you, and I want to try to move the needle for you in just about every aspect of where money touches your life. And even if that's stuff that doesn't pay me a bit, to give you an example, that could be where you hold your money in a bank, and are you getting enough interest to give you some resources so that you can go make your money work as hard for you as possible. Oftentimes, you're going to hear people that are financial planners carry a designation, like for myself, that CFP. What does that stand for? Certified Financial Planner. You get that designation by going through a very rigorous education curriculum. You have to sit for a very advanced test. Typically, that education and experience in industry has to be years. The education part of that is something that colleges can teach. But again, you need the experience in order to even be able to utilize that logo. So for their rules for the CFP, it's a mandatory 3 years of actual experience doing financial planning, not just being a financial advisor that sold a product. Typically, it's the case where most financial advisors would charge somewhat of a fee-only structure that might be ongoing, or just kind of like an ad hoc fee where they might charge you like an hourly rate or give you some sort of goal, like if you want analysis for Social Security planning or retirement planning or estate planning or insurance planning. They can do things in a myriad of ways, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about how Family Tree does that in a little bit. From the fiduciary duty, they are absolutely fiduciaries if they're holding, especially some of these designations that are out there. Not only are they going to be supervised by their broker-dealer relationship that they're typically involved in, like for me, Mosaic Wealth, but they're also going to be guided by different industry regulatory bodies and the designation bodies and boards that exist out there. Like, for instance, the CFP designation has a CFP board that does make sure they review and monitors the utilization of the CFP designation and making sure that the advisors that are out there utilizing it are doing what's right for their client base. There is a code of ethics. There is a standard of conduct when it comes to the CFP designation. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more here in the next few slides as well. All right, so where does the rubber kind of meet the road? Where do these two kind of roles overlap each other? Because just like myself, I wear both hats. So, and many financial advisors, or at least some financial planners, I would say, do. Not all financial advisors are financial planners, but very typically, every financial planner is a financial advisor. So how do I determine what my needs are? And I think it's pretty simple. You got to ask yourself these top 3 questions. Do I mainly want help with just growing my investments? Do I want somebody that's going to give me just some quick guidance and I'd rather do it myself? Or do I want somebody that's going to give me that guidance and create a holistic plan, kind of that retirement roadmap or that life roadmap? And when I say roadmap, that's really realistically looking at your life of what we need to do now that's going to help get your accounts, get your plan in the right place. And that, again, encompasses so many different things, all the way from where you bank to how you are investing in your 401k. But it also has a lot to do with the stuff that like Silverbridge themselves specialize in, the taxes, right? So we'd love to have a relationship with your CPA out there. And honestly, a lot of people do want both. But if you're looking to be somebody that does it yourself, you could certainly be okay with just a financial advisor relationship. You might need them to actually purchase the products that are recommended to you. Financial planners could either do that for you or let you do it yourself. I'm on the side of the coin where I think there's a good value for working with a financial planner, financial advisor relationship and letting them do what they do best. If they can look at everything inside your purview when it comes to money, they're going to ultimately have a design for what the best outcomes are. So we'll dig into that a little bit more as we keep on progressing through these slides. All right, so let's talk about fiduciary. Let's talk about the regulation. Let's talk about the things that provide consumers or our clients some protections in this environment, because the word fiduciary gets thrown out. And I think it's a very hot topic. I see it on commercials when I'm watching football, on Sunday. So it's everywhere. And what does it mean? So at the end of the day, there's really two types of regulatory environments when it comes to how a financial advisor or a financial planner can conduct themselves when working with clients. Regulation best interest was something that was developed within the last 5 or 6 years, really hardcore push by the Department of Labor. When it comes down to regulation best interest, this is something that a lot of financial or any financial advisor these days, if you have licenses that sell advanced investment products, you're required to follow what's called regulation best interest. It has 4 core obligation standards when it comes to how we need to kind of check our boxes when it comes to dealing with clients. So the first one is disclosure. Disclosure simply means that they're providing certain prescribed disclosures right before or after the recommendation. That's going to be background on me as a financial advisor. It's going to be my history as a financial advisor and all the licenses and designations that I hold, as well as my industry experience. So you also should know if there's any marks against my record. If I've been a naughty boy, then you're going to see it in some disclosures when you're working in that relationship. And those disclosures have to be provided to you by that financial advisor at the time of a recommendation is actually given or prior to. So that helps you do a little bit of background, but are you doing it is the big question, and potentially the answer is no. When it comes to care, the care comes from the financial advisor themselves. Are they exercising reasonable diligence, care, and skill in the making of the recommendation? When it comes to conflicts of interest, obviously we want to, have a good communication about anything that when it comes down to how we get paid, or if there's anything, right? If there's like kind of self-dealings, we should be disclosing that. If I'm getting paid a certain way for the products that I sell, I should be disclosing that. Obviously, when we're talking about pay, there's certain different conflicts of interest that may be present, but our goal there is to establish, maintain, and enforce the policies and procedures that are reasonably designed to address the conflicts of interest. When it comes to compliance, the goal there is to establish, maintain, and enforce the policies and procedures that are reasonably designed to achieve compliance with regulation best interest. And we'll go into that a little bit further and show you what some of those regulatory bodies are in the very next slide. All right, fiduciary duty. The fiduciary rule itself is mostly for investment advisors. These are people that have the ability, because of the licenses they hold, to actually do business with their clients in a myriad of different ways. Financial advisors generally get paid fees or commissions from the products they sell, but a true investment advisor has different series licenses that we'll talk about shortly, but those series licenses allow them to get paid for their fees in a different way, right? We can set like an annual fee or an hourly fee, or we can charge based upon the assets under management that we invest in and oversee. So there's typically 4 different categories when it comes to fiduciary duty. This will help you to evaluate if somebody is a fiduciary for you and what that truly means. So again, investment advisors, not just financial advisors. If I'm selling you a stock or a mutual fund, that doesn't make me an investment advisor. That's a different, higher kind of tier scale of license that is out there. The fiduciary duty encompasses those 4 things. Let's start with duty of care. Investment advisors must provide competent and diligent advice. This includes conducting thorough research and analysis before making recommendations and ensuring that the advice is suitable for the client's financial situation and their investment goals. Advisors are required to make a reasonable inquiry into the client's investment profile to understand their needs and objectives, right? What does that mean? That means that I need to know you. I need to know you pretty detailed. I need to know where you work, how much money you make, how much money you spend, what options you have inside your workplace and what you don't have inside your workplace, all right? When it comes to the duty of loyalty, what does that really mean? Advisors must act in the best interest of their client. You're the duty here. It always comes back to the duty towards their client. The client's interest must be placed above our own. That sounds a lot like regulation best interest to me, by the way. So very similar sides of the coin that they're coming from here. This includes avoiding conflicts of interest, and it includes the disclosures that any potential conflicts that may arise in the future. Advisors cannot prioritize their own financial gain or welfare for their clients. So that is a big part of the fiduciary rules and fiduciary standards that are out there. The third one there is transparency and disclosure. Investment advisors are required to provide clear and comprehensive information about their services, fees, and any potential conflicts of interest. This transparency helps the client make informed decisions regarding their investments. Right? That's how Family Tree operates. We operate in an education-first mindset. We always like to educate. Sometimes that education can be overwhelming, but when we're creating a roadmap for your long-term financial success, it's easy to see why we need to know so much information about our clients, because that's going to lead to the best outcomes out there. And lastly, there's these ongoing obligations. So ongoing obligations for a fiduciary are including the relationship that is not a static thing, right? This is an ongoing relationship. Advisors must continuously monitor and adjust their recommendations based on the changes in the client's circumstances or the market conditions that are out there. This ongoing duty ensures that advice remains relevant and beneficial to the client. So most of the time when somebody is fulfilling their fiduciary duty, if they're a fiduciary inside your relationship with them, right? If I'm an investment advisor that has an investment account with you and I'm a fiduciary for that account, I have an obligation to you to make sure that you're constantly keeping us up to speed with what changes you have. How do we accomplish that goal? By meeting with our clients. And it's Family Tree's objective to meet with our clients on an annual basis, potentially more. Sometimes we meet with some of our clients based on need 3, 4, 5 times a year. It could be a monthly check-in if that's what you need. So we like to meet our clients where their needs exist. If you don't need a whole lot of guidance throughout the year, then maybe one time a year is enough, but that should be the minimum standard for if you have a financial advisor in your pocket right now, or somebody that's helping and guiding you, they should be proactively calling you to meet with you on an annual basis at the very minimum. I think that's really, really important. So in summary, regulation best interest raises the standard for broker-dealers, for financial advisors, but it's still a recommendation-based oversight. The fiduciary standards of fiduciary duty is strict and it's continuous. It requires advisors to always put their client first throughout their relationship. So it's very good to distinguish those standards when it comes to a financial advisor versus financial planner. All right, let's spend some time talking about the regulatory environment. I would probably say I'm on the side that would say most actual clients, unless they've been in the actual industry and have held licenses, probably don't understand the extent of who is monitoring their financial advisor, who is out there. All right, we already talked about that broker-dealer relationship. But let's talk about the ones that are a little bit, further removed from just my broker-dealer like Osaic Wealth or Edward Jones or Raymond James or all the other myriad of financial planning firms and advisory relationships that are out there. So let's start with the kind of the biggest one. We're going to go from left to right on your screen. We're going to start with the big boys out there, the federal government ones, the Security and Exchange Commission, otherwise known as the SEC. The SEC regulates investment advisors. Right, like I said, an investment advisor is somebody that has high standards or a lot of licensing underneath them to be able to do fees. This is typically like RIAs, registered investment advisor firms. My firm is not one of those. Since we clear through a broker dealer, we do not need to be an RIA. They're very much interchangeably as well, those two terms, RIA versus broker-dealer. If I wanted to be completely independent and kind of not want anybody else governing me, I can go out and kind of be self-governed, but the SEC is going to really be stepping into that relationship more than what they did if I have a broker-dealer. So typically, the SEC is going to step in and monitor any RIA, those registered investment advisory firms that have over 100 million in assets, but they're also going to monitor any advisor that holds the ability to charge on an asset under management basis. I am the latter of the two. I work for a broker-dealer, but I do have the licenses that allow me to charge based on fees based upon the assets that I manage. So the SEC wants to make sure that I'm doing my job. Let's move on to the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, something called FINRA in our industry. FINRA oversees the broker-dealer relationship as well. So it's kind of like a double dip, right? There's a lot of people that are sticking their thumbs into making sure that clients have the best thing going for them and are well understood and are really taken care of with best interest. So they're going to oversee that broker-dealer relationship. Of anybody that's considered what a broker-dealer relationship would be called a registered representative. They're registered, which means they have licenses, and they're registered underneath a broker-dealer banner. FINRA is going to administer different licensee exams as well. So they're the ones that are providing these exams to test the knowledge of the financial advisors that are out there. This could be something like a Series 7, which is mainly for like stocks. This could be a Series 6, which is mainly for like mutual funds. A Series 65 or a Series 66 is more of like that investment advisory relationship. And we'll kind of show you here throughout at the end of our discussion today, what some of those licenses actually mean, just in case you're curious. All right, so let's go into the third one, the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor is the regulatory for advisories and investment advice when it comes to retirement accounts. So consider this like your 401k. This is stuff like IRAs as well. So anything that has to do with the tax advantage of retirement accounts, the Department of Labor really cares that there's a little bit more oversight when it comes to investment advice given in those specific categories. If somebody does not manage over 100 million, like the SEC would step in for an RIA firm that manages over 100 million, well, what do they do if somebody only manages 99 million or 95 million or 50 million, right? That's where like the state, and here in Idaho, we would have the state regulatory agencies. They're going to do very common things. I think that's something that is probably a hot topic, at least in the industry right now, is there's no standard across state lines that all 50 states have to follow. There's an organization that provides guidance when it comes to life insurance, and they're trying to provide that guidance to say, this is how that state should operate, and try to make that level across the playing field, the playing field. So, but states have to adopt some of those, kind of common areas where they're going to be regulated in the same way if I'm in Idaho versus I'm in Oklahoma or Oregon or Utah or any place else. So the state would step in oftentimes if an RIA does not have over $100 million of assets. And the states get to determine kind of their level of oversight independently from other states or especially the federal government. All right, last but not least, we'll spend another 30 seconds talking about independent organizations. I mentioned that the CFP designation is granted by the CFP board. There's plenty of other designations that we'll talk about. I hold one for the certified financial planner. I hold a behavioral financial advisor, which really talks about the behaviors investors do and how we can get better outcomes based on values. I have a lot of other designations that are more towards retirement accounts like 401k specialties, deferred compensation plans, restricted stock units. There's pretty much nothing that you can bring to the table with me that I can't give you some guidance on. I have a lot of experience and I have a lot of designations, which means that I take a lot of continuing education. I think at this point in my career with all my designations, I probably have to sit down for about 50 independent hours of continuous education almost on an annual basis. And I have to upkeep and monitor the ability for me to use those designations that follow my name. So that's what those independent bodies are. Obviously, the CFP board represents the CFP designation. Another popular regulatory or independent organization, I guess, would be American College. They offer, these are the different types of organization that actually offer these designations. So they develop their own tests, their own standards, their own requirements for how much industry experience is needed when you go into that type of an operation field for designations. All right, let's talk a little bit more, digging a little bit deeper. We're taking this obviously from a 30,000-foot view. We're coming in now maybe into under the 10,000. So preparing for landing here where the rubber really meets the road. We're going to get into some nitty gritty details. So hopefully everybody's doing okay out there. I'm going to take a quick breath, take a quick drink of water, and let's jump into talking about some of these licenses that exist in our industry. All right, so when we're talking about licenses, this is really what designates, in my mind, my opinion, because as you know, the word financial advisor is not regulated, but in my opinion, a financial advisor should at least be able to sell me some sort of investment product. So let's start with Series 6. The higher up we go in number usually means the more aptitude that financial advisor has on what they can sell you. A Series 6 is usually where most financial advisors start. Series 6 represents a core representative license. It's enables a financial advisor to sell different investment company and variable contracts. Think mutual funds, think annuities that might be out there, insurance products, right? They cannot sell individual stocks or bonds with this designation. So think of this as them selling you like a packaged good, like mutual funds are a package of stocks. So they can sell you a mutual fund, but they can't sell you Apple by itself. They might be able to sell you a mutual fund with Apple. So that's where a Series 6 is kind of the first license that most financial advisors get in the industry. A Series 7, when we see these single digits, a Series 7 is kind of that next step up. It's a general securities representative license. It virtually is able to sell all securities, stocks, bonds, options, mutual funds, ETFs, and so on and so forth. It's the broadest license for financial advisors who want to offer a full service brokerage feel for their clients. When it comes to things like Series 63, Series 65, Series 66, sometimes they kind of cross over. So for somebody that has a Series 66, it means actually that they have both a 63 and a 65 in a combined test. For myself, I have a Series 65 and I have a Series 63. So I didn't get the Series 66 because I already had the Series 63. So I just needed to add the 65 part of that. What does that mean? It's the Uniform Investment Advisors Law exam, right? This is really where you go back to the Investment Advisory Act of 1940 and some of the old school rules that got placed right after the Great Depression. It allows advisors to act as an investment advisor representative, that IAR environment there, and they give fee-based financial advice if they want to. It is required if I wanted to manage client assets for a fee, right? If I'm charging based on assets under management, a flat fee, hourly fee, I need that Series 65 or Series 66 in order to do so. It is not tied to commissions in that environment. It is advice-focused an advice-focused license. When it comes to designations and certifications, we're going to go into some specific examples that most of you would see if you're seeking a financial planner in just a minute. So let's define what designations and certifications are and what they are trying to accomplish. This is where we shift truly from the license, that regulatory permission, to a professional expertise and credibility. Unlike the series license, designations aren't required by law, but they signal a specialization, a depth of knowledge, and a commitment to a higher standard. Like I said, they require additional ongoing certification credits or ongoing education credits. They can also expand what your advisor can do in their practice, the scope of their advice. Obviously, I think that having more education leads to more trust. And then they can certainly market themselves as those different designations that they have. They cannot give it does not give them the legal ability to sell the products. So for myself, I need the designation, that's fine, but I also need the licenses. So for me, I have both. I have all the licenses, I have all the designations, or maybe I like to think so, but I always love to continuously learn. So that's really the case when it comes down to the differences here. So to shorten this up, The series licenses that you see for license for financial advisors present that legal ability in the products they can sell to you. Okay. The designations provide that professional credibility. It's how the clients perceive the expertise and that fiduciary commitment. All right, so let's look at some of those designations. We talked a little bit about some of the licenses, the number soup, at least, of the licenses that are out there. Let's talk about very common industry designations. Obviously, we talked about that CFP, that Certified Financial Planner. We also see one of my partners here, Chris Eggleston, has the Retirement Income Certified Professional. What is that? The RICP is something that it's obviously retirement income. It really represents, in our opinion, the 10 years that lead up to retirement and the 10 years that lead after retirement starts. That's obviously a very critical window in time where there's a lot of risk on making sure things are done right so that you start off retirement on the right foot. And lastly, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the CHFC designation. That's called the Chartered Financial Consultant. So let's go rewind a little bit. And then I gave you a resource at the bottom of the slide in case you want to kind of scope out what the designation means. Feel free to copy that. I don't know if you can copy and paste, but write it down if you like. And that's a good resource. There's hundreds of different designations out there. Some of them very, very valuable. Other ones are really concentrated for like Medicare specialties or elder care specialties. But when it comes to planner, we want them to encompass a broad range of skills and expertise. So that's what a certified, all three of these designations are really for that. Kind of the pinnacle, in my opinion, again, is the CFP one. So to earn the CFP designation, the candidate must have a bachelor's degree or from an accredited institution. Mine's from Ohio State, the Ohio State. They're also required to complete 6,000 hours. That's 3 years of service in the financial planning environment. And I think that's really important that the expertise and that kind of earning your stripes environment is there. But there also is the actual coursework. So after they complete the coursework, the candidates themselves must pass a very comprehensive test. In this case, this is a 2-part, 3 hours each session test that they have to sit for and pass. And it is almost like not necessarily, it's not pass fail. The average score for the CFP exam when I took it was 62%. And a lot of those people that score in the 60% do not earn their designation, thankfully. So, but it's a very rigorous and it's a very hard exam. So it really does separate, I think, the people that are good in this business and the people that need a little bit more experience and expertise and education to get there. The focus for the CFP, like I said before, it includes the financial retirement planning process, retirement planning itself, risk management, taxes, insurance, estate planning. It encompasses all of those areas in a very broad range of ability to help. This does not mean it excludes a lot, right? We go into details on Medicare, on Social Security, on home insurance, on auto insurance. So there's almost no area of your financial world that a CFP hasn't been well educated on in a broad range of topics. Let's talk a little bit more detail about that RICP designation. It's offered through the American College, just like the CFP board offers the CFP exam. The American College is another institution out there that develops some of these designations and creates the educational curriculum for those. The American College for Financial Services was developed over 45 years ago. The board of it has 45 leading retirement planning experts from across the United States. Their goal is to equip financial professionals with expertise in these needed fields when it comes to really income planning. And let's dip into that chart of financial consultant, right? We talked about RICP, kind of the 10 years that lead up to retirement, the 10 years after retirement starts is most critical. That's their goal there. The chart of financial consultant is very similar to the CFP exam. It's actually run by the American College rather than the CFP board, and it represents the same educational requirements, right? Taxes, insurance, investments, retirement planning, but it doesn't have an all-encompassing test that sums it all up in a holistic viewpoint. So the CHFC, very well-versed individual if they have it, but that means they're taking solo tests for every topic, not an all-encompassing test for all topics when it comes to financial planning. So the CFP has the same requirements. We have to pass each individual exam, but then we have that one encompassing exam for the entire holistic planning part of that process. So again, look at some of those resources that FINRA offers for what those designations are, what the requirements are. To earn that designation is an important thing, I think, when we're looking into evaluating a financial advisor. All right, so how do we find our fit? The right fit for you depends on your needs and your goals. Researching a financial advisor carefully is the essential essence of what we're trying to do. The right advisor is somebody that should be with you to protect and grow your wealth for generations to come, at least hopefully decades to come, right? This is somebody that hopefully you can choose once and they're with you their whole career, or at least a firm that they're with can hopefully continue to guide you through your different phases of life and into and through retirement, all the way up to, you know, eventually the end of life. So I created this step-by-step process that I think is very helpful for us to use. Let's start with number one, define what you need out of that investment advisor or financial advisor. Define the scope of the services that you're looking for. Do you need an investment manager only? Do you need somebody that's well-versed in tax planning, estate planning, business succession if you're a business owner, insurance, philanthropy, so, you know, that charitable aspect of life. The advisor type is typically somebody that we'd say, hey, a financial planner is somebody that you can evaluate. An investment advisor, there's private wealth managers. Do I need somebody that's you know, in tune with my CPA? And all those things come into question when we're looking at defining what you need there. When it comes to verifying credentials, again, that's where that last slide is going to be really helpful, because you can go check out their credentials. If you're unsure what they are, it's probably as easy as Googling it as well, guys. So, but check to make sure that advisor actually holds their designation. It should be on that issuing organization's website as well if they are a member that has an active standing relationship. I can't put something up on my website in my email body if I don't hold it and maintain it in good standing. So generally speaking, if they put it on their ad in any way, shape, or form as an advertisement, that means that they are probably in good standing with that designation. You should check the regulatory records, right? We talked about the SEC and FINRA. We're going to go into that specifically here in a little bit. I'm going to give you some good guides to this. We're going to wrap up with that. Obviously, you want to research their firm. So you had family trees. You can look up that. You can kind of check us on the Idaho website and see how long we've been registered in Idaho. But really, you want to get a good feel for how they operate, what much resources they offer, what kind of tools and services they offer. I think that's really important. Are they just financial advisors or are they truly fiduciaries when it comes to this? And I think, you know, when it comes to understanding their compensation, that's something that you should be taught about the first time you talk to a financial advisor or planner, is understanding how they get paid. We're going to go into that again. I'm going to kind of tease a little bit more. We're going to go that to a little bit. But again, that could be fee only, it could be commissions, it could be fee-based, or it could be a mix of all that stuff. You want to really review their approach. Like I said, my approach is to kind of give you an education first model and let you sleep on some of the advice and recommendations we give you. You're going to get that right from our first meeting. Our first meeting, completely free consultation. Every single one of our meetings are free consultations and reviews. We don't charge by the hour because we feel like that's a disservice to our clients. If I charge you for every time I want to talk to you, not that that is bad for all different, you know, professionals out there, but it's probably going to lead to us not having as much time on together to get to make sure we understand what the needs are. If you have to check in with me for a question, are you going to if I send you a bill every time that you want to ask me a question? The answer is probably no. So we tend to go more under the fee-based or asset under management style so that we can give you advice whenever and however you need it. You should obviously be interviewing multiple advisors. My preference is at least 2, but probably 3. My goal there when I guide some of our prospective clients through this is to say, hey, I think you should interview 2 or 3. I think you should vet out maybe even more than that and just get a good feel for how that relationship, and if they have all the other 6 that we've just went through, if that's a good fit for you, then maybe you want to give them a quick vet and then sit down for an eyeball to eyeball conversation. If you're a married client that's out there, we really put a whole lot of value in both of those spouses showing up to the meetings, because it's a trust game, right? You've got to trust that if something happens to you, if you get hit when you walk out the door by a truck, you've got to make sure that the surviving spouse has a good interworking knowledge of what's going on and has that trust already built in for the financial advisor that they choose. And last but not least, obviously third-party reviews. Use your own network for this. You can, talk to the CPA if they have a relationship with that financial advisor firm. Get their take on it as well. Talk to your friends, your neighbors, your relatives. You can ask for references as well. We have an ongoing list of our clients that are more than happy to give a referral or a reference to a prospective clients, and they would certainly say they're an open door to helping you evaluate that relationship that you have. All right, we're about ready to finish up with today's topic. And so I thought it would be really good to actually kind of go through a little bit more of that evaluation. Okay, so we're going to jump off of the slideshow here, and we're actually going to go into my web browser. Brittany, just tell me if there's anything that you're not seeing on my end, if I'm not switching screens correctly. All right, we're going to start with.
You're good. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so we're going to start with FINRA. That was the first one on that screen. All right, we're going to go into FINRA. We're going to use the SEC website, and then I'm going to go into the Certified Financial Planner website as well. I'm going to show you really how to do this. So I'm going to use myself as an example here. Hopefully we finish up in the next 5 to 7 minutes, and then we can go to some questions and answers if anybody has them. So this is where if you don't, have their CRD, their credential number, you can just put in their name. So my name's Stephen Schultz. That's all I need to put in there. I'm going to see everybody that has licenses underneath FINRA, and I'm the one that's Stephen M. Schultz with Osaic Wealth. There's me. My office is located in Eagle, Idaho. And then I'm going to see a couple things here. I'm regulated by FINRA, right? That's because I have some licenses, right? That's Series 6 or Series 7. And I'm also an investment advisor. So again, here's the experience where I have both hats. That tells you that I have a little bit more advanced education in this one, but I also have the ability to charge based on fees rather than just commissions. Okay, here you can see their years of experience since they've been licensed. My experience, I say, goes beyond 16 or 17 years. It's really, I went through college for this, and I was in the industry well before I was licensed, really helping be a consultant in the industry. Disclosures, what does that mean? Are they on the naughty list? But you can click inside here, you can go through more details. Here's what you're going to see is that, hey, I'm licensed in a lot of states. I have relationships where people that I've met from, Idaho have moved out, and I've maintained their financial planner, financial advisor. You can see I've worked with 4 firms back since starting in 2007. I have over 16 years now of actual experience where FINRA has been regulating me, and I'm thankfully still not on the naughty list, and I don't ever intend to be. But you can see some of the firms I've worked for. I truly went independent when I started working with Family Tree Financial, and I joined Osaic Wealth at that time because they're a great shop that supports financial advisors that like to be independent. What do I mean by that? I used to work for Prudential and their financial advising arm. Nothing against Prudential, but oftentimes they valued selling their own products. At Osaic, I get to truly be an investment advisor for my clients, and I do not have to sell a specific chartered or mandated or incentivized product that really creates a conflict of interest. I think that is huge, not having a conflict of interest with my clients and being able to charge fees in the way that makes sense most for them. And we do a great job in that first initial meeting with our clients. We educate you heavily on how we get paid fees and what your options are in there. So here's a quick look through of what you should expect when you're looking at somebody that has these different things on the FINRA website. Okay, so very impactful there. Let's jump over to how the SEC maybe gives you a little bit more guidance. By the way, if you were to go to just finra.org, right, this is specifically to check on your broker. Finra.org is going to give you the same kind of tools and resources that you're seeing here from the SEC website. They developed a website specifically for individual clients or individual consumers like yourselves out there on how you can really vet and get some investment and help for really looking at how this industry works. So there is a great way for you to check again on the SEC website. You're going to feel like when you go in there, if you type in my name here, it's going to pretty much give you the same outcome as what FINRA had, the same kind of charts, what states I'm licensed in, if there's any disclosures, years of experience. It's almost going to look identical. But what you have here is the ability for you to look at this website and get a lot more of your kind of guidance on how to vet a financial advisor. So again, introduction to investing, you have that inside there. This is where you can really get some good guidance on what kind of questions should I ask? How do fees work in this industry? What are all these terminology that my financial advisor is going through when they talk to me about this? And again, you can see what the role of the SEC is and a lot of other things that are great for consumers out there. And they have financial tools and calculators out there. They have different, ways for you to make sure you're protecting yourself from anything from fraud, right? Cybersecurity and things of that nature. Really hot topics in today's industry that everybody should have at least a little notion of what's going on in their financial purview and how secure they are. Last but not least, we're going to look into the CFP website. So again, I list those out. I'll go back to the presentation so you can copy down these different websites if you're interested. This one's a specific website for the CFP board that created for the end consumer. It's called letsmakeaplan.org. I think it has some great resources out there, right? It really kind of shows you how the planning process works with a financial planner. It helps you evaluate and have more questions and the different types of services and the different types of advisors out there. So if you're not wanting to sit through a whole hour-long presentation and you want to play around yourself, I really think there's a great value on this. Again, you can search for the location of a financial advisor. You can search for them by name. I think it's kind of a little clunky. Let's give this one a try, though. So let's go by name. I'm going to type in my name with my middle initial and see if it pulls me up. I'm going to agree to their terms and conditions and see if I can find myself. And I didn't. That is hilarious. Let's try this again. Let's go back one more screen here. I love the live demonstration, by the way. This is awesome. All right, I'm going to take out my middle initial. I was just thinking it would do me some favors here. And again, we're having some issues. So I'm going to just type in my specific address because I want to prove to you now, in case you're out there wondering if I'm actually a financial advisor. Let's look. I promise this worked for me before I joined this call. But again, all right, let's take me out of this. You'll be able to find me. I favorited myself, so I'll probably just look for myself on my favorites tab. But I promise you it worked for me before. But this is a great way for how you can actually see if that CFP is on there. And the point of this is really looking at maybe where they set their minimums. Family Tree ourselves does not have any investment minimums, right? That's not what our goal is. Our goal is to serve our community. So we do not set minimums. You can be 18 years old with your first job, and we'd love to have a relationship. We believe that everybody deserves to have a competent financial advice in their corner. And so we do not turn anybody away. Our only goal or our only case that we require is when we're talking to financial prospective clients, we want to make sure that you know that you have an active role in your relationship with the money we manage. We don't want it to be a set it and forget it and never see you again. We want it to be an ongoing plan, and we do financial planning in every single time we talk to our clients. Okay. I think that's really hugely important when you're working with a financial advisor. Let me jump back to that last slide just so everybody can copy down some of these websites that are in there. There you go. So those are the three that I think are really valuable when it comes to researching a financial professional or a financial planner, it's really valuable to look at these different websites to help you kind of gear up for those meetings and those evaluations, questions you can ask, how fees work in this industry. And let's spend just a quick minute talking a little bit more extensively on fees. When it comes to fees, again, if I'm selling you a financial product, maybe as my financial advisor hat, I can sell you something like a mutual fund, right? Chances are that mutual fund is going to pay me some commission. My client is not. My client pays the mutual fund, maybe fees get discounted or taken out of your account, and part of that goes to the mutual fund company, like for instance, American Funds, a big mutual fund organization, and they're going to pay me a part of that fee as my commission for selling that product. Commissions are not bad, right? Typically, commissions could be something like if we took, you bought an insurance policy, whether it's a term or a whole life policy, whatever it may be. If you spent some money and you pay your premiums, generally your financial advisor gets a piece of the premiums that you pay that insurance company. It could be where it's, all up front. They can take it all in one lump sum, or maybe it's spread out over the first year or several years. So there's a lot of different choice in the structure of how a commission pays out to a financial advisor. Sometimes that you pay that fee directly, and you might pay that commission as part of the fee to buy that product. And sometimes it's just kind of comes with the product you buy, and it might come from the institution. Just know that there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? When you buy a product, I guarantee you're paying some sort of fee, or that advisor's making money in some way. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You should probably just understand how that works in that individual example that you're going through with your financial advisor or planner. When it comes to financial planners, right, there's generally two ways financial planners work with clients. So I can do, as a financial advisor, I can do stuff based on fees and commissions, right? Really, commissions is the clear term I want you to get there. But the other two ways are I can be a fee-based financial advisor. That's where you're going to hear terms like, oh, my financial advisor charges 1%. Okay, 1% of what? 1% typically of the assets under our management. Whatever we're actually directly influencing and managing for you is underneath our banner is typically what you're going to pay that fee-based services on. So the old notion is, well, when I do better, my financial advisor does better. When I do worse, my financial planner or financial advisor does worse. And that's a good kind of same side of the table relationship. That's the one that Family Tree offers more often than not. But we offer all three of these ways you can pay fees. And we guide you through what makes the most sense for what part of the investment, okay? It's very important for us when we go through our education of fees that we talk to our clients about making sure you understand how your fees are paid. So I gave you a very blanket statement. I said we charge fees on 1% of assets under management. That is not an industry regulated thing. Some financial advisors can charge fees up to 2.5% of the investments they manage. So, and some advisors do that with smaller or lower tiered clients, right? If I'm just throwing in a little rollover for a job I just left and only have $10,000, then chances are that financial advisor can say, well, my fee for accounts of this size are X, Y, or Z. It's important for us to know that, you can kind of go one of two ways. I can charge that 1% on all of the assets, or I can have what's called a tier structure, or maybe I charge you 1.5% on the first 100,000 of assets under management. And then I might charge you 1.4 on the next 150. And then I might charge you 1.3 on the next 250. So it kind of staggers and your fee gets lower as we go. We do that kind of flat 1%. That's I guess our worst fee that we would invoke on our clients. But ours goes down. We encompass the entire thing. So it's often difficult for our clients to understand how they pay fees. It's our objective when you meet with us, especially if you're coming from a different financial advisor or planner relationship, that we coach you through how you're paying fees, and we tell you extensively and be very transparent about the fees that we charge. All right. It's also important for us to talk about that 1% fee that you might get from a financial planner as far as their assets under management fee. That is not everything you potentially pay. If they're an investment manager, right, there typically could be a couple hidden fees that there may not be transparent about. Again, Family Tree is going to be very transparent about the different fees that are in your portfolio. But if I'm charging you 1%, if I'm not building you a portfolio myself, I might be using a mutual fund, or I might purchase an exchange traded fund or an index fund that's out there. And obviously, if I'm using some sort of third party like an American Funds or a Vanguard or a Charles Schwab account, there's going to be a small fee inside that. That fee might be very well hidden from you. It's our objective to bring that fee and make it very transparent and show you all the stuff that is even hidden. And so there are different layers of fees. You want to make sure you're asking that pointed question. Is that all the fees I pay? That might just be what they're telling you is their fee, and they should be disclosing all the other fees. All right, let's talk about the last set of fees, the last way you can structure kind of a fee arrangement with a financial advisor or planner. Remember, in order to charge these type of fees, I have to have an advanced license like a Series 65 or a Series 66. So if I'm charging you based on assets under management, that's called fee-based. I can also have a structure called fee only, right? So for instance, if we're just doing a financial planning engagement, that's where you can say, well, if my financial planner is going to put together a financial plan, like almost like a product, right? That financial roadmap that looks at your entire holistic situation and tries to give you comprehensive advice. That is different from investment management, right? I'm just talking to you about your plan. And so typically when we're talking about financial planning services, they're typically called fee only, right? I might pay in order for a financial planner to establish a financial plan for me or my family. They could charge me $3,000 or $5,000. I've seen some planners that charge up to $8,000 for a financial plan. It's typically that's your setup cost for maybe establishing it. They're spending obviously a lot of time in the development of your financial plan. Typically 15 to 25 hours is typical for how much time I'm spending behind the scenes working on your financial plan. And so obviously they want to get paid for their time. And so they'll put maybe a blanket cost on what it costs for a financial plan. We have different tiers of financial plans, right? If you're just looking for some basic financial planning for retirement, our base fee is $500. So if you have investments with us, oftentimes we're giving you a discount or giving you a financial plan for free along with that, because we do feel there's value in both having your investments and your plan under the same umbrella. That means that all oars are in the water rowing in the same direction. But a fee-only advisor might charge you, $3,000, $4,000 or $5,000 to set up your plan, and then have an ongoing annual expense that's typically a little bit lower than that. Maybe it's $1,000 or $2,000 a year for maintenance, ongoing, check-ins with their client, and to make sure they're always reviewing and updating that plan for any changes that do exist. They can always charge you an hourly rate too. They could say, well, we're going to see what the fee is after I've done all my work. And they could charge anywhere from $250 to $500 an hour. Again, I think the transparency is very valued by me, but I'll let you be the judge for yourselves of how that fee structure works for financial planning. I think this is a good segment where we can say, let's kick it over to some questions, and I'm happy to answer anybody's question on how fees work or be a little bit more detailed and pointed based upon the questions that we get, if there's any out there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephen. That was such a good overview. And like when we first kind of decided this would be the topic, I was like, this seems so basic. I don't know how you're really going to talk that much on it, but I'm like, there's a lot of information out there that I think people have no idea about. So thank you for
can
that.
tell, Brittany, I could keep going.
Yeah. Okay, we do have some questions. So I'll just read them to you. Some of these probably got put in here before you might have answered it in the presentation, but I'll just go through them. Is a wealth advisor the same thing as a financial advisor?
I would say yes and no. Typically, a wealth advisor might be a little bit more, have some designations that are really towards maybe high net worth individuals or ultra high net worth individuals, right? Would I call myself a wealth advisor? Yes, I would call myself a wealth advisor. Again, I think what you're really looking at is that difference in, do I see licenses for that advisor that's representing themselves as a wealth advisor? I would love to see the licenses, and I would love to see some designations that kind of prove the proof is in the pudding, so to speak there. So again, I think that's one of those terms, just like financial advisor, that's unregulated. And generally, a lot of people can do that. Do I have wealth? What does wealth mean to me? What does wealth mean to you? Those are two different things.
Yeah.
So is $100,000 of net worth wealthy? It depends. Is, $10 million ultra high net worth or ultra wealthy? That depends. It depends on your lifestyle and what your needs are. So again, I think that's one of those terms like financial advisor that gets thrown around a lot.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. As a financial planner, can you help your clients with private investments like private equity, hedge funds, etc., or are those kinds of investments totally separate from what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's again where you're defining the scope of your engagement with your financial advisor or financial planner in this case. For us, right, what do we think is really important? We think that, things like IRAs, 401ks, that should be a well-diversified asset. You should probably make that kind of like your bread and butter investment to help you get to a baseline financial independence for retirement, right? General rule of thumb that we utilize, again, we're kind of that Dave Ramsey-esque culture here. We like to do a rule of thumb of 15% of your gross income goes into some sort of tax advantage retirement accounts. We can help you develop those retirement accounts, but that's where diversification, I think, in our opinion, leads to really great outcomes, right? Diversification means I have a bucket of different mutual funds, which represent hundreds, if not thousands, of different stocks and bonds inside there. So when it comes to that, you're getting broad exposure. That diversification is your friend. It leads to really where long-term outcomes truly can be more understood, more planned for, and kind of treated as the norm, right? But specifically to address your question, our goals would say, hey, there's more than one ways to grow your wealth outside of that. You could be a cryptocurrency investor. I could be that with you, or I can say that's something you can do on your own. I can help you monitor that and I can put it into your financial plan. I don't always need to sell you the product if you wanted to do it yourself. Again, we try to meet clients where they want to be met. So if it's like a little bit, hey, you guys invest my IRA, I want to do my Bitcoin investment. I like Home Depot stock. I like Apple.
Mhm.
A lot of our clients have relationships with us like that, right? And a lot of our clients are real estate investors. So we are here to help you analyze the real estate that you're buying or how much you're getting for your rents. But we are not trying to charge you a nickel and dime you for every single thing that you do. We want that to be clear and transparent, and we want it to be you have somebody that you can use as a sounding board with objective advice for anything that you would like to do to grow your wealth. So we meet you where you want to be met.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. I definitely think you answered this throughout the presentation, but I'll read it, and if you want to expand any more, can you recommend some questions we could ask a financial advisor to vet them a little? I'm thinking we should ask about whether they are a fiduciary. Should we also be asking about license level or specific certifications? So clearly, you did say
Yeah.
those things
I
should be
like these
asked.
kind of find your fit questions, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely think there's a lot of value in those two bottom ones. The SEC and the CFP board have some great questions to ask
Okay,
financial advisors out there. At the end
perfect.
of the day, Google it. I mean, yes, you should be asking how fees, how is our relationship going to work? How is your investment approach? What are your philosophies? These are all things that you should be asking your potential financial advisor out there.
Well, okay. And this is just a comment. It says, thank you for this information. My husband has a financial advisor that he hasn't heard from in several years. He gets a Christmas card every year, but nothing else. So
Yep, we hear that a
good
lot,
information to know. Yep.
Hey guys,
Um,
we'll tell you this. I'll speak to that real briefly, Brittany. I'll say, hey, it's time for you to tell your financial advisors and the professionals in your life to sharpen their pencil. We
yeah,
should be proactively reaching out to you. It shouldn't be a burden on you to get somebody that cares about you.
yeah.
Like we are very proactive about that. And why is that important? I mean, take this year, for instance, right? We've had the tariff whipsaw, right? We're back and forth. Investors in February through April, scared to look, right? They put their blinders on. What are we doing during that time? We're calling to reassure a lot of our clients that everything's going to be okay. We're sending out emails, we're sending out articles. We're trying to be as helpful as we can and provide resources for you to hear from us and our opinions, but you to also make your own independent opinion too. And I think that's really what you need from a financial advisor. This summer, we just had this, one big beautiful bill act passed July 4th of this year. That represents a huge amount of tax impact, right? I'm sure you guys are getting a lot of these questions being CPA for all your clients here. But that is a big, like a game changer for a lot of clients. And that really means that that tax purview, that tax, kind of hat that I wear needs to come back into the conversation when we're talking about tax efficient planning, right? We want to be smart with our money. It is not my goal to fund the IRS. It is not my goal to fund our federal government with your hard-earned money. I want to show you ways to keep your hard-earned money and show you ways that make sure you're planning not just for this year, but for 20, 30 years down the road. And I have ways of visually showing you those items through financial planning.
Okay. It looks like we've got two other questions here that I want to make sure oh, no, that's, okay. I know you focus more on or it seems like you guys want to focus more on IRA, retirement, that kind of thing first, but this is expanding on that a little bit. Have you seen a surge in green, quote unquote, green financial investments like renewable energy, green transportation, green EFTs? If not green, what's the next big thing you're seeing that people want to invest in?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of that. I think there was a push, and it probably wasn't such a push here in Idaho, being the state of where most of our Idahoans are politically, and that was like ESG investing. So that was something that came about maybe 5, 6 years ago. That's that environmentally friendly social governance, right? Social impact, your governmental impact. We want to make sure we're not funding, terrorist organizations or bad companies that are out there. So that was a big push maybe 5 years ago. The Green Initiative, certainly one of those. I think that is going to continue to be popular, but maybe needs a little bit more development. We hear a lot about AI and how can I be in front of the AI boom that's headed our way. That is a big one as well. And just being part of the, kind of the ongoing technology era that we still exist in, right? Where there's that kind of tech boom or the dot-com boom of the early 2000s. And I think maybe that scares people away when we say the word technology, but technology is always there and it's always growing and it's so quickly changing that it is important for you to address that with your financial advisor relationship and for them to show you some different avenues.
Sure. It's a lot for you guys to keep up on, I'm sure.
Hey, we're
always
geeks,
changing.
we're nerds in this industry. We love it. We love this stuff. This is why I say to my clients, I'll never retire. Okay, I love what I do.
Yes, for sure. This is a great question. How do financial advisors and financial planners differ in how they approach RMD strategies for clients, especially when considering tax efficiency and legacy planning?
Again, I think when it comes down to that, it's really understanding what the scope of that advisor and what their educational and experience level is. Really having a teacher, right? Somebody, and we say heart of a teacher, that kind of is our bread and butter here. You should be educated about this. And not to say you're not already, but you should be educated in a way that you understand how their philosophy works around that. I think a financial advisor, if they're just selling you a product, probably isn't really worried about the outcomes other than maybe is it satisfy, or are you going to have any issues, right? They got to make sure that that is a good product to sell you. When it comes to a financial planner, somebody that's going to wear that hat, it's going to go really deep. It's going to be talking about Roth conversion strategies. How much tax impact is that RMD going to lead to based upon, the notion of how fast or what percentage we're going to grow that asset by. So we want to understand that there's if there's a tax bubble out there, things like qualified charitable distributions, what's called a QCD, that's a good opportunity for us to use those required distributions. If I don't need it, what are my other options? Can I donate to a charity? And do I have to pay taxes if that's the case? If I don't need it, what can I do? Can I reinvest that? Can I gift it? What can I do with that? So for me, a financial planner is I'm really bringing that back to your values and your goals and of helping you evaluate the best decision is based upon those values specifically. If you want to create a legacy, I'll show you different options. if you just want to continue to grow your investment and grow your nest egg, I'll show you those options.
Okay, that's great. Well, if we can open it up, that was what was in the chat feature, but if anybody has any other questions that they didn't type in, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. And if not, we have this recorded and I will send it out to everybody. And if you're okay with it, Stephen will put your contact info on it and people can hopefully just ask you individually through email or give your office a call, either way.
Absolutely, guys. Free consultations. Okay. Happy to be here. We'll answer questions even if you don't feel like you'll ever come back. We want to give you good advice, and we're happy to meet you wherever you are today. So thank you so much for having me, Brittany, and everybody. Yeah,
thank you, Stephen. We appreciate your expertise very much.
Awesome.
And your time.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching this summer speaker series. If you would like to tune in to future presentations or connect with this speaker or Silverbridge CPAs, please visit us online at silverbridgecpas.com.